Um, well, it may just be us today. So,
Probably so, but
uh,
okay. I
I'm all yours.
I do have a few questions. One of
Great.
them is, so what is your policy with pickups? And I'll backtrack a little bit. I have a client. I do English and Spanish.
Uh-huh.
Actually, probably like 70% of the work that I do is in Spanish for the Hispanic market. I grew up in Mexico.
Okay.
And so I was doing these spots for a client, and I've worked with him before, and he wanted to do the 30 and the 15 versions. This was a tourism, for San Antonio.
Uh-huh.
And so I recorded both versions, and then after I sent the files, he's like, "Oh, no, no, this is the script that the client now wants you to record this script." And I'm like, okay, there's a pickup fee, because the files were already sent, like,
Right, right.
and he's like, oh, no, my client won't do that. They're not going to pay a pickup. And I just thought that was really very unfair because the files had already been sent and they just changed their mind after the fact. And they expected me to just go in and, in a different day and do another session.
Yeah.
So what would you
They,
do?
so the client was not on the phone with you?
No.
Okay. Um, uh, I think that, in principle, you're correct, that um that if it's a different day and you've already turned in the script and the script is approved when it was sent to you, they're now asking you to do a new thing, right? So, but um, so I think that that's correct. And at the same time, now you just need to evaluate the value of the client, right? That you are working with. And if you've worked with this person before and you want to work with them again, right? Then you have to make a decision, about the value of the client. I think if it were me, and really you are free to make whatever decision you want and that you think is the best for you. So I give you this just to give you my perspective on it. If it
Perfect.
was a valuable client to me from whom I got regular work, I would respond and say, I will do this one for no additional fee. But please understand that this cannot become common practice. If they are not going to be on the line with you, right, in order to make corrections and updates in real time, then if they've sent a final script and you've sent it back in, that's it. And if there are changes, like it's different if they were to come to you and say, you know, you missed a word or, you know, um,
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
right? Or if they were to even come back and say, you know what, we need to shave 2 seconds off of this, right? Then it would be like, yeah, I'll do that. I will give you that pickup. But when you come in to change a script after it's been sent, that's a different animal. And so I suppose in this circumstance, um, I if I wanted to keep the client, right? I would say, I'll do it for you this one time, but please understand in the future, I can't do that. If the script has changed, if it's been turned in, if the script was approved when sent to me, and they decided to change the script, that's on them, and they need to pay me again. Right? So, right? So it's a
Yeah.
it's a bit of you are taking it on the chin and to a certain degree, right? And you're not wrong. You're not wrong. And then we are faced with the decision about how, the importance of the client to us. And if this production house that you're working with or this producer that you're working with is truly respectful of you, they will understand that. and say, thank you, I appreciate it. Like it's like it is a gesture of goodwill on your part, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so th this is a piece of um it's the reality of non-union voiceover, right? That because once an agent and the union is involved,
Yeah, those things don't happen. I mean, it's very
yeah,
well controlled. I know. I mean, I'm
yeah,
union.
and I
I just,
say that not to say, oh, you should join the union. I have mixed feelings about that. If particularly when you're in a market where union work isn't really happening, if you're in a right to work state, and if your choice is to work non-union, I mean that's everybody's choice, right? I just I think what I mean to say is this is not a scenario that I'm really accustomed to, right? And so my advice to you is kind of on, from a step back, and kind of looking in at it and saying, huh, what would I do in that circumstance? Um, but I, I think you have, I think you have the moral high ground here, um, and and that you're not wrong. You should be compensated, and um, you have a choice as to whether or not you're. Have you been paid for the first yet?
no, not yet. I sent in the script. Actually, he came back and said that the client ended up going with a different person.
Okay.
And that what was my session fee because they were going to pay the session fee. So I gave him a corrected or an updated invoice and sent him that because he's the engineer and he works with the ad agency and then the end client. And so
Yeah.
the ad agency are the ones that wanted me for the job. And
Mhm.
then the end client finally changed their mind. But I have worked with that client for like the past 3 years. I've
Sure.
done spots for them.
Yeah.
And they've paid well. They take a little bit of time, but they pay well. And but so this time, I told the guy who I'm in touch with, the engineer. I said, look, one way we can avoid this is if you please ask them once or twice to send you the final spot, like to really make sure that they have the final spot, so that we don't run into this sort of situation. So
Yeah.
that's all I can say. But I remember there was something like I think last year we had I think it was a similar situation that they didn't want to pay a pickup.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes me think. And I do both actually. I mean, I do even though I live here, but I do union things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Mhm.
but for so long I was just non-union, straight non-union. So I didn't want to get rid of all the clients after I
Yeah.
joined.
Understood. Yeah. I totally get that.
Yeah.
Well, I think in this instance, you kind of um you it's good. You know, like you'll get paid for your
At
session
least,
fee, and then you these are the kinds of circumstances that we use to refine, our policies, right?
yeah.
And it brings to mind the necessity of having those policies stated clearly, stated clearly and agreed to, and you know, and to state those policies with specificity, right? To say if it's a mistake on my part, you know, if the time is too long or the time is too short, right? If you weren't, if a producer is not on the call, right? And I've sent something that for the above reasons, doesn't work, I will do a pickup. But if you change the script, there will be a pickup fee. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
So it's a really good question, and then you just have to determine what you think is a fair pickup fee, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always put it like in all of my invoices, the terms and conditions, it's there. It's like
Okay.
any mistakes on my part are free of charge. Any script revisions will be done at a, 75 or 85 pickup session fee.
Yeah. Yeah.
So And then, so this was a bit of back and forth with that client. He said, "Oh, you should have told me that you were going to do that for pickups." I'm like, and I took like a screenshot. It's been in your invoices that I've sent to you every single time, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
the other thing is like I'm like I need to create, which I don't for a lot of clients, but I should do my own contract, my own have my own template where I just specify every single thing. I mean, mostly it's just been you know, in the interest of time, to not have them sign a contract, send it back to me, whatever. But I'm gonna start doing that, even with clients that I know. And I've
Yeah.
spoken to some other people, that they say, okay, if it's a new client, I send them an agreement. But if it's a client that I've worked with for several years, I don't send them the agreement anymore because, we're on the same page now. We know how we like to work together, and they know what needs to be done in X, Y, or Z situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know. This is the stuff that is for me is the hard part. It's like really uh defining your parameters, right? About, and the conditions under which you'll work. And yet it's just vitally important. And
Oh, yeah.
I think it's easier for us to see when we're approaching other voice actors because it's very easy for me to say to you, truly very easy for me to say, yeah, you should do that. It's not unreasonable, but I would sit and kind of go, should I, if it, if it were myself, right? So, and I think I've never run across, anyone who has stated their terms and conditions, if you will, where I've said, well, that's rude, or I've never, I just look and go, okay, great. Those are your terms and conditions, and I, and I move from there and act accordingly. And, so,
Yeah,
um, I think when we do those things, we kind of have to step outside of of ourselves, right? And govern the thing like an objective observer, So,
exactly.
yeah.
It's a business, and these
Yeah.
are the rules, and that's how, I need to run my business in a certain way. And yeah. So yeah, and people respect that.
Yes. They do. And that's what we're after, And so it's a lesson in kind of learning to respect ourselves,
Yeah.
which is hard, but it's a good question. It's a really good
Yeah.
question. So,
Well, thank you
uh,
so much.
yeah. I want to welcome the new folks who've popped in. Hi, Ralph. Hi, John. And Callie. I think you're here, right? I think that's right. Yeah, Callie's here. Okay, great. Um, That's fantastic. Well, I know a few of you are um, not on camera, but if you've got questions and you just don't want to like be seen or whatever today, which, I'm borderline that way myself, but you can feel free to type any question that you might have in the chat, and I can get to it that way. So, um, Ralph, Callie, you guys have any questions
I
for
was
me
just
today?
gonna say, I just thought I haven't been to one of your sessions before, so I was just curious.
Mhm.
I'm one of those guys that kind of been around voice acting, doing the training off and on because of life challenges that include family, blah, 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 and all that, and got through it all. And now this fall, I'm working with, now his name is blank on me. It's funny. I've had training with Yang Gudza and
Uh-huh.
good people,
Yeah, yeah,
strong, and you know what I mean. And
yeah,
it's Anthony Reese. I'm thinking of that. I'm doing some training with, so we get along well. And I feel like um, it's the for me, it's the business aspect and just getting the ball rolling.
yeah,
So it's sort of a 6 month kind of plan I've got right now to finish up demos, and I've done them before, but the place I'm in now is much better. I just started late, in life. And so I like to listen what other people are just saying, whatever they're talking about.
yeah, yeah,
So many aspects to what we do. as an actor, which I've been around for close to 40 years, uh, how important that is.
Where are you located, Ralph?
I'm in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, all right. I'm in Jacksonville right now.
In Florida?
No, Jacksonville, Oregon. I'm I'm
Oh,
I'm
well,
just
that's
I'm just
different.
like 20 miles from Ashland, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm seeing a friend, but here I am in Oregon, so
Well, you're allowed,
thank you.
of course.
It's the beauty of voiceover, right? We can travel places.
You can be anywhere. Yeah, I like that idea. It's very attractive.
Yeah, it's good. Um, well, do you have any specific questions for me or anything you
Honestly, I don't. I just,
All right. Well, if something pops in your
um,
mind
sure.
while I'm here, obviously feel free. So, but one of the great things about voiceover is that there's no, expiration date on a person's career. It's, you know, certainly with time and with age. I mean, I've been doing this for 40 years, and um, you know, the kinds of things I read on are very different now in my early 60s than they were in my 20s, right? It's different. So we definitely change, and what's available to us is different, but there's still stuff out there, and so and that is just a great thing about the business. I have different expectations of it at my age now than I did in my 20s and 30s. But I also know that anything's possible, you know? Um, campaigns are possible, big fat jobs are possible, you know? And so I just think it's a great thing. There isn't anything that says, "Oh, sorry, you can't do this anymore," you know? Um, so it's a that to me is just a really big benefit of being behind the microphone. You have a really interesting and resonant voice. It's got a lot of presence, and there you are. You're not
Thank
even
you.
on a microphone, right? So, so that's a great thing. So,
Well, you know as well as anybody, your voice is only as good as you're willing to go with it and take it
yeah,
places.
yeah, that's very true.
And
And a voice alone is not enough, it's
that's why the acting training is paid up, but also a lot of hypnotherapy, a lot of other process work I've done, uh, meditation, anything to get yourself in a very centered place
yeah,
helps you to go deeper into whatever character you're trying to bring forward.
yeah, absolutely. That's great.
So,
Well, I'm really glad that you're here. I thank you for checking it out. So,
betcha. Thank you.
yeah. Hey, Callie, how are you? Did I see your hand go up?
No, but I don't know that I have a specific question. I'm sorry for hopping in late.
Oh, it's okay. No problem.
Um, First, I just have to tell you that you were one of the first. I started in with voice acting like 10 years ago, but I did it all the ways that they recommend you shouldn't.
Well,
I'm
it's
that
the best
person.
education.
Yeah, yeah, and it has been. It was like
Yeah.
a really good. It was a good. To Ralph's point, it's you learn about yourself and your own processes.
Yeah.
But you were one of the first people. Like I think I literally just Googled like female voiceover podcast, and you had
Oh,
your Beehive podcast
yeah.
back several years ago. Anyway, so I have been following you for a while. So thanks for offering this up today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
My pleasure.
I don't know. So I don't want to waste time. And if someone else has a more specific question, please jump the line.
We're good. We're a
I'm at a
nice,
point,
intimate group today, so it's good.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm at a point where I'm trying to expand my categories. I came over into voiceover from music, and
Uh-huh.
so it's like in some ways that was a benefit in terms of the audio production part, like side of it. I've done a little more with audio production. I've been able to help clients with like doing full audio posts, and I enjoy that. But from an acting standpoint, I feel like I really honed in on, I'm in Minneapolis, and most of like the bigger jobs that we have here are pretty limited to commercial and industrial. So
Uh-huh.
that's really where I've focused my efforts.
Yeah.
That being said, every coach I've ever worked with has always said, "Oh, you have such a unique timbre for a woman." And that
has suddenly, like, all of my booking dried up this year with like
Mhm.
past clients in commercial. And I think it's just like I've been cast, as controversial as this may be, I've been cast as non-binary more than once. My voice just, I did an animation workshop in LA and the with like a 30-year casting agent, and she was like, I'm going to give you a script that I've never done for a woman before, and she gave me a script that she normally gives to men. So it's like I'm in this weird middle place. So I'm trying to expand myself creatively and go, okay, what are some of the other genres that I just haven't explored? Like, I would love to do more e-learning, and I've just never cracked that nut. So, without asking for free career advice, I'm like, I've been trying to hit up people like learning designers on LinkedIn, because that's the only thing that I've really heard out there in terms of like garnering new clients. Um, but I guess I would ask that, like, if you have any insight or advice in terms of breaking into more e-learning work, or if there are agencies, or if there are nuances in moving from commercial into e-learning. The reason I'm focusing on e-learning is I have a background. I taught for a couple of years in a classroom. And I really love that intersection of information and entertainment.
Yeah.
Like, that's the part of it. That's part of why I'm
Yeah.
interested in it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's great. Uh, and e-learning is, along with commercial and narration, they are the categories that I think most people who aren't in, LA or New York and involved in animation and video games and dubbing and all those things. I mean, they are the kind of the workhorse
The bread and butter.
genres,
Yeah.
where there's a lot available.
Yeah.
It's not my area of expertise. I have done e-learning, interestingly, I hopped on to Voice 123 when it was first created, like
Mm,
way back in, I don't know, 2010-ish,
yeah.
11, 12, somewhere in there. And it was a very different platform. It was very small, and the thing that was great about it is it, and which is still great about it, is that opportunities come your way, and you're connected directly to the client.
Yeah.
There's not a middleman in there who stays in the middle in between you. And so that was the way that I found, I want to say, two or three clients back at that time, and I worked for them for several years, just ongoing stuff. I just became a part of their stable of voice actors that they used. Um, and that is the only way that I ever, came across e-learning clients, but that's really not the case. It still is, it still is an avenue, the pay to play sites. And I would say probably Voice 123 more than others. Um,
I'll admit I used to be on Voice 123 when they changed to being algorithm, like after the pandemic, when I understand why they had to change their algorithm, because the volume was just intense and they had to
yeah,
figure out how to
yeah,
sort talent.
yeah.
But it became like, to me, it was like, oh my gosh, this is like a part-time job just to maintain my Voice 123 profile. And it was like making me angry, and I felt like it was actually making me a worse actor, and so I just chose to not
I
participate.
totally understand that. And it is a part-time. I just like why I don't, I mean, I think I have
Are
a
you still
profile up there, but I,
are you
I don't,
still on it?
I don't think I have a paid membership anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I have one on, but I'm not paying for it
Yeah.
anymore.
And I don't know um, if you are familiar with the course that,
Yep, I bought the course. I
okay.
did
All
the
right.
course.
So you
Yeah.
have that resource. And I would say it's one of those things, like if you want to pursue e-learning, like it's one of those, like, okay, got to suck it up and sort of get back to that. And like, you know,
Okay.
um, just because it is a good resource, but I completely understand it. It's just up to you and your level of tolerance
Yeah.
for that piece of it. And a lot of people just find it intolerable, understandably so. And then the other thing I would say is, um, that, marketing, uh,
Hmm.
using LinkedIn as a resource, and using, you know, um, using good marketing tools to go out and seek clients yourself. That's the way of e-learning. It
Okay.
doesn't come by way of agents. It's that it that
Yeah.
isn't I mean, I don't think I've ever in all the agents that I've been with, I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think I've ever received any sort of e-learning
Yeah.
audition or work or anything like that. But there are helpful pieces of software. I mean, Danny States. Do you know Danny?
Mm-mm.
Danny is a Seattle-based voice actor, and she created Voiceover View. That's one of
Yes.
her like that. So that's
Yep.
her creation. She runs that, but she's also right now building a course. It's active, but she's building it, kind of course by course, of the Apollo software
Oh,
system. And that I hear from the people that use it, they just swear by it in terms of
okay.
its ability to really hone in very specifically on marketing. And
Yeah.
and Danny is um she's got a great mind, and she is quite business oriented.
Hmm.
And so she really took the time and got to know this program and then thought, I gotta do a course for other people, which would be for like a person like me. It'd be like, I would look at a piece of software like that and be like, I don't know I don't even want to get inside it. But with a course like that, I'd be like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll try that course. And I'm confident that her course is reasonably priced. Like,
Yeah.
she's just there to help people. So, Ralph, I see you. Just one sec. Uh, but I do think then, and I don't know. I want to say Anne Ganguza, that I know her. That's a lot of what her business is focused on. And so she's a resource. I don't know how or in
The
what
marketing
capacity.
stuff.
I'm sorry.
The marketing stuff. That's what her business is focused on.
Uh, ma- Marketing and e-learning, right?
Oh,
That's kind
okay.
of her area of expertise. I think I have that right. But so I would check those resources. I would consider Voice 123 again, and it's all going to be because of the effort that you make toward
Yeah.
toward securing clients. You
Well,
know,
you're validating. I started it with my own. I'll look up Apollo, but I've used Trello for years just because I like the way it's laid out.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And a lot of this is like me hitting my own, I know it's my own imposter syndrome barriers because I've
Uh,
done communications consulting. Like I've helped build over a dozen businesses. So now it's just time for me to turn the microscope around and do it for myself. So, but
yeah.
I haven't tried Apollo, so I might look into that. I might
Yeah, check it out. It's what do they is it a C it's not a CRM, is that what you
It's like
call
a
it?
project. I'm guessing it's like a project management. That's what Trello is.
A client something management.
CRM is customer relations management
There you go. That's what it
platform.
is.
Is it that? Okay.
That's what it
Okay.
is. Yeah, so check it out, and feel free to tell Danny that I sent you.
Okay.
I just, I don't have a business relationship there with her, but it just
No, but I'm sure she'd like to know that you're helping
sure, yeah,
connect the
yeah.
dots for people. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like Nikki and I were talking about earlier. It's like it's so much easier for us to, see and to help other people, than it is for us to do the same for ourselves. It's
Yep.
it's it's a challenge, but I think we have to again step outside of ourselves and view ourselves objectively and give ourselves some advice, from that vantage point instead of from within with all of our little doubts screaming at us and
Yeah.
all those voices saying, well, you can't do that. You don't know that. That's too scary.
Yeah.
So, but I do know that about e-learning, that it is a self-generated kind of piece of the business.
Okay. Yeah.
And again, Tracy Lindley has a great program on how to do your LinkedIn page, which, and I'm saying all these things because I've done them myself. I did Natasha and Catherine's Voice 123
Of
program,
course.
which is a great program. It's like
Yeah.
great. Um, and Tracy Lindley's, I did that as well, um, and I haven't done Danny's yet because I'm just trying to get my membership off the ground.
Yeah. 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 Once
It's
you
like
get that
I'm
done.
so single focused. That's like,
That's kind of me too. That's why I say it's like I just have been in this, like I've gotten pepperings of other things, but mostly it's been commercial. And like even my own clients have been commercial, even if I didn't
yeah,
get them through an agent. So now
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
okay, Callie, it's time to like dive back into the waters and spread your wings a little.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Well, that's great. Good, good.
thank you.
Ralph, tell me, you've been wanting to comment on this. I see.
Well, the only time I've heard the word Apollo was in reference to you know, I'm trying to think of what we use for our interfaces.
Yeah, the Apollo twin. That's what I thought Danny was first saying, and I'm like, really? Do people need a course on the Apollo twin? But no,
I know.
it's a different. It's a software
It's
program.
a CRM that you're speaking about.
Correct.
I just
Uh,
looked it up and it's like sales and outreach,
Yeah.
which is a little sometimes the CRM can just be like a database. The
Yeah, it's
sales,
more than a yeah.
yeah.
It's more than a database. It's a whole process of sending emails and tracking the emails that you sent and sort of all the setting it up so that one email triggers the next email and it's that kind of thing. So it really streamlines your communication,
do you
and
have
so
do you, do you have contact information for Danny?
yeah, I think she's let me just look and make sure. I think she's just Danny, Dani,
Right.
at DannyStates.com. But let me make certain. Yes, Danny at DannyStates.com. DANI at DANISTATES.com. As in the United States of Danny. States, Danny States. Yeah. So
Okay.
good.
Sounds good. Yeah, I
Susan,
was
tell us
going to
about.
say about
Oh,
Anganguza. I'm sorry.
no, no, go ahead, please.
Um, some of our other areas of focus is medical,
Uh-huh.
and just like J. Michael, the political.
Uh-huh.
They're both very strong on that, and she does commercial and corporate. Corporate narration is another fave of hers,
Yeah.
which is kind of where I kind of mentioned all of them when I'm wanting to go. And I'm doing initially the commercial and then corporate narration,
Yeah.
but the
Smart.
e-learning you slip right in there. So it's big in the corporate world, of course.
Yes.
And but medical, political, I mean, if you can stomach it, it's a good deal.
It's good work. Yeah, it's good work. It's true. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I like that information on the CRM because I haven't done that part yet.
Yeah.
So there was one woman I'm trying to think of. It's not Danny, it's another name. She's done training in the past couple of years. Something she came up very unique. Ah, shoot, I'll come across it, I
Okay.
guess, at some point. But
Okay. All right. Thank you.
anyway, thanks.
Susan, I'm so happy to see you. I haven't seen you in like decades.
Forever. When
Oh,
I just saw the email, I sat down to look at an audition and I saw that you were live. I had to jump on.
I'm so happy to see
Wanting to do it for so long. I'm
you.
so happy to see you.
Where are you? Are you in LA?
I'm still in LA.
Fantastic.
Kay and I had the same agent. Kay
Yeah,
gave me a baby shower for my first baby. Oh my gosh. Those were such good days.
I
You guys, I
know.
used to like get to go into the agent's office to audition.
I know.
When we were auditioning against, how many people would we be auditioning against max? What do you think? 75?
Oh,
150?
oh, less than that, I think. Especially if we got a call to go to the voice caster or something like that, then we're just reading against 10 people, you
I,
know?
My
Right.
hat goes off to all of you. Like it's I don't even get how to crack this nut when people are doing it all over the world.
Yeah.
You are using technology names that I don't even know what you're talking about and I should. So
Well, are you still with SBV?
no, no. They canned me a few years ago after like 14 years. And I'm with Stars out of San
Oh,
Francisco. And
fantastic.
I got a little lazy about going back into the LA world. So I'm really just getting disciplined again. Kay, I ended up looping for a living.
Yeah, well, that's a great
And
living.
I'm so grateful. That's, it's feast or famine, like everything else.
Sure, sure.
But I'm really have never had the discipline. I'm in awe of your discipline, Callie, like as you're talking. So I am right now in this place of trying to get into the modern age.
Yeah.
And how do I
I'm only
do?
like 3 weeks in, so I'll take that. I'll record that and then play it back to myself in a
Please
month.
do. Please do. That I have to learn how to take all these steps
Yeah,
to,
well,
to, you know,
you're auditioning, you're auditioning at home, right, with
yeah,
stars, right?
yeah,
So you have gear at your house.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you got a booth.
Yeah, because during COVID, when looping, they figured out a way to have us do it from home. I really upgraded my
Yeah,
system, which I
that's
didn't
right.
realize how awful it was prior. So I have a really good setup.
That's fantastic.
Thanks.
Yeah. And so you're halfway there. You're more than halfway there because
Bless
you already are working with an agency that, is accustomed to everything working from home, and like that's, I'll tell you, I have I'm with Atlas and I've been through, the all of the things in terms of like trying to market myself as a voice actor and trying to find clients on my own and using pay to play sites and stuff like that. And after uh, a long period of time trying to work on those things, I just realized, I'm from another era, and I am just the reason voiceover worked for me in the first place was because I'm I'm I've never been entrepreneurial and but I'm always responsive to a client. And so my agency, whatever agency I was with, is my client. Atlas is my client. SBV was my client. And so when they send me something, I turn it around, and I'm very responsive in that way. And then of course, if I ever booked something, of course, I'm like a professional person and I show up where I'm supposed to be on time and do all those things. But I was voiceover for me was never about entrepreneurship and going to build my own client base. And I realized at a certain point in my life, like 10 years ago, like, oh, I am, uh, I am still that. I am still a person who built her career on the agent relationship, and that is what I will do until I don't work anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Oh, I
Thank
sure
you,
do.
thank you, Nikki. Really nice to talk to you, and see you soon, I hope. Um, so it's like I uh, I realize that's who I am, and that's how I work. And I too am in awe of people who have built their careers over the last 10 to 15 years in a completely different world. And I think if I were to be starting voiceover right now, just given my personality, this is really isn't commentary on the business. It's commentary on myself and what type of person I am. I don't know that I would do it.
I really appreciate you saying that because
Yeah.
I'm at this stage in my life, I'm very much facing how do I create discipline? How do I create self-starter habits?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When you use that word entrepreneurial, I'd like to think of myself as that, but I think I'm more like you, Kay,
Yeah. I think a
right?
lot of us are
I think most artists are, yeah.
Right.
from our generation of doing voiceover and how it began as an extension of acting. And we were in LA to become actors. And that whole thing is like, oh, if I could get an agent, if I could get an agent, if I could join the union, if I could join the union, and when you get those two things under your belt and you then get audition opportunities, it's like, well, they're the pillars of your career, and you build it from there. So, um, so I do think that, you know, I mean, it's also harder. I'll say this too. Like, I think sometimes, you know, and I give this advice to people, like get regional agents to find, you know, new and different opportunity, right, in the region where the agency is. And at the same time, you know, um, the uh, the advertising world is national these days. So and casting has become national. And so, Sound and Fury, which is probably the leading casting house in the country right now, has offices in on the East Coast, a couple of them on the East Coast, a couple of them on the West Coast, a couple in the middle of the country. And their casting, they cast a wide net into the country. And so they are sending their auditions to regional agents. So I have two regional agents, right? Stars and um, the Shepherd Agency in Austin, Texas. And I very often I get all the same auditions, sort of the big stuff that I get at Atlas. So regional agents are getting great auditions, the same kind of stuff that you would expect from LA and New York agencies, right? And then, the benefit to regional agents is that they also get their regional clients, right? Where advertisers in Texas are only going to a Texas talent agency. They're not looking in LA, they're not looking in New York. They're looking in Texas. So if you're with that regional agency wherever, whether it's in Massachusetts or New Hampshire, wherever, those are the things that kind of make the difference where you get auditions for a small and you're auditioning from a smaller pool of talent, right? So so I have found that um those are great for, you know, people like you and me, Susan, who are acclimated to the agent relationship. But I'll say this, 9 times out of 10, when I have submitted to regional agents, they decline to represent me, you know?
Because you're not from that area?
I don't know. It's very hard to
But
say.
you're amazing.
I
They
think
should want you.
I think there's a piece of it that it's like I submitted to a Tennessee agent, which is where I live now, and I saw in Nashville. So I submitted to one of the premier agencies in Nashville, and it was like that, they're kind of a full service agency, so they do on-camera stuff and so, I submit myself as a voice actor and it's like, no, you know, and I don't know if in that instance, all of my credits are obviously, LA credits or, um, uh, national types of credits, which only come from the coasts. And so I think they can look at my resume and go, yeah, she's an LA talent that's coming into our market, and we want Nashville people. And I think that's legit. I mean, I think, and so it's a very interesting phenomenon. It isn't, I mean, I know it's not because they listen and go, yeah, well, we're not sure she's up to snuff. It isn't that. I mean, but I do find it it could also be my age, right? I mean, there's not a lot of auditions for I should say there are fewer auditions for a 63-year-old female, than there are for the age range of 18 to 25, 25 to 35, 25 to 40. I mean, those are the primary age ranges of advertising copy. And people my age get stuff like, healthcare and investments and Medicare, stuff like that, which I love. I mean, I love that stuff. So happy for it. So I do not say that with contempt. I'm like really happy to have it. But it's just not as prominent an age category. And that's the reality of the business. We all move through our age categories and I don't I mean, I have a whole thing on this, right? Like as much as we may sound as much as a voice actor may sound young, may have a particular timbre of their voice, we don't have the same cadence of speech as 25-year-olds do. We just don't. Just like when we came into the business at age 25, we had a different cadence than the people who'd been doing Procter and Gamble commercials, in the 60s and 70s, right? We sounded young and fresh and hip and different. And now we're the middle-aged people, who sound older and, more staid and more conservative and, all those kinds of things. And it's just a fact of life. We all age. So I, so I think it's a good thing, Susan, to pursue regional agents. I do. And it just, and you may find that people take you, like it just, we have different sounds and different, so you never know. I still, even though I've had limited success with it myself, I still do think it is really viable, like it's a really viable way to get more audition opportunity when you're acclimated to uh that lane, of voiceover and not the kind of, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to develop relationships on LinkedIn and I'm going to pursue my own work and I'm going to be my own agent, if you will, that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I
Right.
think it's good for everybody. I think we should all try to find any avenue that we can for audition opportunities. I'm just mindful of um, my own limitations, my personality limitations.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate your sharing that honesty. And it is interesting because I make probably a third of my living doing young voices. And yet, even in looping, sometimes they'll now say, oh, no, we want real 18-year-olds.
Yeah,
It's a voiceover. You can't see me.
yeah,
So I understand not only cadence, but sometimes they want you to look the
yeah,
age.
yeah,
You look.
yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting thing, I've had a lot of women come to me in their 50s, and say, uh, I used to, I have a really young sounding voice and I used to book all these, young characters or young, not even character, young roles, even in commercials and stuff, and I'm just not booking them anymore and I don't know why. And they're really trying to fit, they're trying to kind of mold themselves into a sound that it doesn't belong to them anymore. And I want to tell them, and I do tell them, like the timbre of your voice is only one aspect of what makes a voice sound young. You can speak with authority with a higher pitched voice too, you know. Um, so that piece of it we seem to forget, and we tend to think it's just if my voice is higher, then I sound younger. And it's like, well, yeah, you can, that's a piece of it, um, but it's a mindset, right? And it's also, I think, the a piece of the frustration of getting older and not having the work that we used to have. And it's like, what happened? And we always think that somehow it's something in us that we can, God, if we could only change this part of ourselves, I could go back to booking the things that I booked 15 years ago. It's like, no, you can't. You booked those things 15 years ago. What's ahead of you? not like what did I do then and how can I, grasp that again. It's like, yeah, shift your focus, to what is ahead of you, and what your voice embodies now,
Yeah.
it's a mental shift.
I really appreciate your input, and I know I jumped on here after everyone else. I have just because you brought up stars, do you feel like you get as much from stars as you do from Atlas? Like what percentage does stars get compared to Atlas? Just so I know if I should try to jump back into the LA.
Well, Atlas, I'm so grateful for them. I left SBV and I loved SBV and I still love those people. I have enormous respect for them and gratitude for the ways in which they, moved my career forward. Like truly, I love them all. And I think I boxed myself in there, um I got scared because my bookings had dropped and I got really nervous. And at the time, very I wasn't a very good communicator. I didn't go to Rita and go, "Hey, what can we do? Like, how can we work together to increase my bookings? What do you need from me? How can I help you help me?" Instead, it was like, "Oh, my career's dying. I have to cut and run." It was very short-sighted. And so I moved over to Atlas and like I said, like when I was at SBV, when I first got there, they asked me if I did animation, and I said, "Oh, no, 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 I don't do animation. I leave that to the really talented people. I do announcer things." And so they were like, "Okay." So they just checked that off the list. And then when video games started rolling around, which it was a whole new, thing, right? I remember getting a booking from Mary Ellen and she was like, "Go here and do this." I'm like, "What's it for?" "Oh, it's a video game." "Okay." So I went and I did whatever. And I was like, "Oh, this is the first time I've been acting in a thing." It was like, "Okay, here's the scene. Your son has just died and so you know, you're mourning over his body." I'm like, "Okay, let's go." And then they asked me to do some efforts, some screaming, and I was like, "Oh no, I don't do that. I don't scream." And they're like, "Okay, thank you so much." And I left the session and I remember talking to Mary Ellen and I'm like, "I don't really want to do that. I don't know what that is, but I don't really want to do that." And so then I just took myself out, a video game, like when it was in its infancy, the opportunity that lay at my feet that I was like, "I don't know what this is. I'm just gonna, it's not gonna go anywhere. This is ridiculous." Meanwhile, God bless Jennifer Hale, who was like, "Yeah, she says yes to all the things." And she just created this monumental part of her career. And she was really good, is really good. So it's just interesting, right? So I'm the one who boxed myself in and made at SBV and made it such that like I couldn't really go anywhere there. And so when I moved to Atlas, you know, anything I said, it was like I had my own faltering, if you will, there with like work dropping off. And then I made this decision of like, well, then you have to embrace new genres, you have to do that. And so when I went to Heather at Atlas, and I'm like, "I'd like to start reading on animation and video games." And she goes, "Great, we'll send you all a copy." And they started sending me all the copy, and they have sent me all the copy ever since. And
That's
so I get so much opportunity from them. That sometimes it's overwhelming to me, and I can't do it all. I mean, isn't that crazy? Like
I'm glad to hear that there's still that much coming through. That's great.
Yes, there is. And now a lot of that is video game stuff. I mean, I had one audition last week that I looked at it. It's like one audition, but then you open it up and there were 15 characters, of which I did 10 and I was exhausted and I couldn't do three other things that were sitting in my inbox. It was like, okay, I guess I have to pass on those. So it's an embarrassment of riches, you know, in a ever increasing competition, you know. Um, I haven't been working in video games because of the strike. And so, you know, when your career really latches on, hinges on one genre, you know, it gets it gets dangerous, you know.
Right. And that's what I
Like
did to
making
myself
a
with
living.
moving. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's a lot of opportunity out there. There is. And
Okay.
um, you know, but again, I think it's hard at our age to um to link up with new agents. It's hard. It's not impossible. It's just it's harder than it was when we were young, you know.
I got you.
But
I
it's
got
out there, and you know, it's a different world. But I think if a person is persistent and tenacious, and you know, well, we know how to play the agent game. That's all. That's the only game we've ever played, right? So, anyway, I don't mean to yammer so much, but it's just
No, I'm so grateful. I'm so
it's
grateful.
there's so much there's so many paths, right? And they're all viable. And it's very rare that all of the paths are for everyone. You know, there are one or two people who can take advantage of, or I should, not one or two, you know what I mean? Like a small percentage of people who can take advantage of all of the avenues and do that well. And mostly, I think you find the one or two avenues that really work for you, and you focus your efforts on those, and you do well, you know. And I'll tell you, it applies on a micro level there too. Uh, Heather Dame at Atlas, you know, in giving advice to another Atlas talent who shared this story with me, he was overwhelmed by the number of auditions that he was getting, but he wasn't booking anything. And he was so frustrated because he had moved from another agency. His income just took a nosedive, but he was getting all this opportunity. And he was like, I don't know what's happening to me. I don't know what's wrong, you know, what's wrong with my reads, what's, you know. And she said, "Well, why don't you just go through all of the auditions that you receive, and if you're overwhelmed, pick the three that you think are the bullseye for you and do those three and forget the rest of them." And he started doing that, and his bookings just went right up, you know. So when you narrow your focus to the thing that you do really well, and it'll put you to the top of the list, you know, it'll shortlist you, it'll get you a call back. It's like that's the stuff that matters, you know, and there's a lot of stuff we do that is sits on the outside of what we do really, really well.
Yeah.
And if you've got other stuff that's competing for your time, do the stuff that's really in your wheelhouse, you know.
As opposed to thinking that I'm not giving it at all if I don't
Correct.
do every
That's
audition
right.
that comes through.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Exactly.
got you. I,
Thank you,
I
I
appreciate
Howard.
throw in,
Appreciate it.
excuse me, can I throw in a little
Sure.
perspective from someone who doesn't have your experience and who's coming in at such a late age in life? Because I'm 76, so not a young guy. Now I've got a diversified voice and I've got an acting background, which I think saves me. And when I was listening to you, uh, the the wisdom that's coming through is be available to the genres you can play with, even if you don't book, get involved because it stretches you over here at the same time.
Yeah.
All you benefit in there's so many things I could say about this just because of my acting background, but
Right.
I realize in many ways, regardless of my age, um, I have a lot of advantages,
Yeah.
and the feedback has been great. And I've learned how to vary the voice and learn how to just not be a one note pony and all of that things that you would talk about to someone who's starting out. You've got to learn to really vary things. But varying the genres are amazing. Doing video game, I would love to do that
Yeah.
because I can do all kinds of voices,
Sure. Yeah.
but it's not the best place to start.
Yeah. Yeah. I
It's
mean,
you know.
commercial is always the best place to start. It's still, even with all the genres that are out there these days, commercial is still the primary thing. I mean,
Yeah.
advertising goes on, and there's more of it, and there are more streaming platforms, and there are more channels, and there's the interwebs, there's just so many places that people for which businesses create commercials, you know. They're not necessarily on ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox, and those are even like the percentage of households that those stations are in is so diminished. It's so diminished. It's not even the primary. I mean, national network. Like, I don't remember the last time a national network spot came across my desk because they don't make those media buys anymore because they're not
Oh,
necessarily worth it, to the advertiser. There's so many other ways to reach more people. You reach more people on Instagram than you do on ABC you know so
yeah. Social media is another learning curve I'm going through. So,
yeah, it's just if you think of it as just it it's another channel, but it's huge. It reaches
well, your comments on LinkedIn are right on.
more
That's just, I've
people.
been there for 15 years, not just in voice acting. I've got over 4,000 contacts. So,
Yeah,
take advantage of it. I
right.
get it.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Well,
thank
you
you.
guys,
Been
it's
great.
five after 11. I generally don't want to keep anybody past an hour, but I'm so glad that you're here. And I do want to say, to those of you here and to those of you who will watch on the replay, my my membership group starts this week, starts tomorrow. It's just a little recap of what it is. It's $60 a month. You can join and you can cancel whenever. There's no long-term commitment to it. Um, it it includes 3 sessions per month, two 90-minute coaching sessions on whatever copy you are working on that you want to bring in the places that you're working right now, that you're seeking to work. Um, and but if you want copy from me, I can provide it. I'll usually provide it in the realm of commercial, but I can also offer promo and video games, stuff like that. But I really, the main focus of it to me is to be able to coach people in the things that they are actually turning in, as opposed to let me coach you in dubbing, when you don't have an agent and you don't have access to dubbing. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's nice to get to know a genre, but if you're not auditioning in those things, I want people to work. It's hard to get work right now. So I feel like whatever we can do to better your auditions so that you start getting callbacks and bookings is the thing that I really want to contribute to. So there are two of those. Um, the second Wednesday of the month at 10 a.m. Pacific, and the fourth Wednesday, did I say Tuesday? It's the second Wednesday of the month at 10 a.m. and the fourth Wednesday of the month at 4 p.m. Pacific. And then we have one other session that's a Q&A kind of interview style, if you will, with long-term sort of legendary voice actors that you can ask questions of, stuff like that. Um, so that is available and you can find it on my website, trustandbebrave.com. So thank you so much. I know, Ralph, you're here and we got some people who are not on camera, but I just want to thank everybody for being here and I'll see you in a month from now for the next Ask Me Anything. And in the meantime, if you're interested in the group, check out my website, trustandbebrave.com. Mwah! Thank you all so much. Thanks. Cheers.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Good one. You too. Ciao.